In October 2000, the president of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, announced they would no longer be selling oil in US dollars, only in euros. Which on the surface is an innocent change. What's the big deal? The big deal is that Iraq has the 5th largest petroleum reserves in the world, and in the 2000s it had become the world's 5th largest oil producer. So when Hussein decided to start selling oil in euros instead of dollars, the US wasn't too happy. By February 2003, he has sold over 3 billion barrels of oil for 26 billion euros. A month later, the US invaded Iraq.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
In an operation ironically called Operation Iraqi Freedom. They overthrew Saddam, and by June, just 4 months later, the country was back to selling oil in dollars. Years later, a number of US officials started to let the truth seep out. Former head of US operations in Iraq, General John Abizaid, said of course it's about oil, we can't really deny that. Former Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan wrote in his memoir that, quote, "I'm saddened that it's politically inconvenient to acknowledge what everyone knows. The Iraq War is largely about oil," end quote. And former Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said the same in 2007, quote, "People say we're not fighting for oil. Of course we are," end quote. Venezuela, 2002. Coincidentally, Venezuela also has large oil reserves. In fact, they have the largest proven oil reserves in the world. At the time, Hugo Chavez was in charge of Venezuela as the dictator president. But Chavez, a die-hard anti-American leader, was about to make the same grave mistake that Saddam Hussein made. He planned to start selling oil for euros instead of the mighty American dollar. Well, we can't have that now, can we? So in 2002, the US backed a coup against Chavez, which ultimately failed, but it crippled the country and its economy. Empires are built on oil. Yet despite having the largest oil reserves in the world, today Venezuela is one of the poorest economies in the world. Do other factors play into that? Many. We've talked about a few of them on this channel before. But going against the US is probably a big no-no. Libya, 2009. Eerily similar to Venezuela and Iraq, Libya has the largest oil reserves in Africa, and they weren't doing that bad. They did a great job managing all those oil revenues, building up a 143-ton gold reserve according to WikiLeaks. They had the highest GDP per capita in Africa, and Libya was on track to become the most influential country in Africa. And also similar to Venezuela and Iraq, Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya, suggested all Muslim and African countries buy oil from Libya using a new currency backed by their giant gold reserves instead of US dollars. In other words, they wanted to sell oil in exchange for gold instead of US dollars, and other major African governments were ready to support. But I think we can all guess what happened next. NATO led a military coalition into Libya in the name of freedom, of course, and on August 20th, 2011, Muammar Gaddafi was executed by Libyan militias, backed by US drone strikes. Years later, it was discovered in Hillary Clinton's emails that NATO really wanted to overthrow Gaddafi's government, mainly because of this plan for an African gold-backed currency, supported by Libya's oil reserves. This was Libya before, and this is Libya today. A failed state with widespread poverty and an ongoing civil war. Why? Because each of these countries tried to break away from using the dollar as payment for their oil, and each of them faced the consequences of America's wrath. Out of all of them, none were able to recover from America's interventions in the name of freedom and in taking down an axis of evil.
And their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, servants of evil, the cult of evil, a monumental struggle of good versus evil.
And they usually ended up far worse than they were before. All these countries had problems, but all of these countries had huge economic potential despite their dictator leaders. But as soon as they moved away from selling oil in dollars, the US swooped in and quickly put an end to the party. And they're not alone. Which begs the question, Why is it so important for oil to be only sold in US dollars? What's the big deal? Why is America so quick to liberate people as soon as this oil for dollars arrangement is threatened?
Shalom, shalom. HALALYAM, YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone to teach them well. Peace and salutations be to all full elect. And brother Taz of Gabar coming to another lesson. This one's going to be going into the reason America was really raiding all these other nations and invading Iraq. The reason America invaded Iraq, invaded these other nations, it was all for oil. You know, it was all for oil's sake, man. You know, if I have not said so, I'm the brother Atazon Gabar coming at you from the province in Babylon camp here in Tampa, Florida. Okay, so we're going to get right into it with these scriptures because the video pretty much explains it, goes into details. I just want to add a few scriptures to it. And we can start with the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. All right, so it's in the power of Esau's hand to just go over there. Like, just think about going over there, raiding Iraq, and then waking up in the morning and sending people over there to raid Iraq. You know, what happened was they were talking about selling oil and euros instead of dollars, instead of the mighty U.S. dollar, man. You know, the U.S. goes over there, starts war with them. 3 years later, they selling the damn oil and dollars again, man. You know, so Babylon is a big bully. Scripture calls her the hammer of the whole earth. You know, because what? You just recently, matter of fact, another example. You got Uganda that was talking about, no, it was not Uganda, Salaki, it was Ghana. Ghana. Ghana was already talking about, you know, doing away with that LGBTQ shit. And Kamala Harris comes over there and then she leaves and all of a sudden they lighten up on the laws, you know. So Ghana wasn't playing that shit. It was talking about, you know, death penalty and shit like that for anybody confessing to be a part of that shit. You know, they sent Kamala Harris over there. All of a sudden they lighten up on it. They're all right with it now. You know, because Babylon is the hammer of the whole earth, man. You know, Babylon come over there and say, hey, you get this shit together and follow after our ways or it's no way, you know. And if you don't get right with Babylon, Babylon can nuke your shit overnight, man. You know. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. And this is Esau Edom for you, man. You know, Babylon, they do this shit. You're going to these other countries, all in their land, taking their fields. You know, you had back then, you know, doing the 911 situation, you know, where America went over there talking about terrorists, but you've seen pictures of their ass guarding the poppy fields, you know, for opioids, man. You know, talking about sort of war on terrorism. No, man. Nobody gonna fly a plane all the way from over there to all the way over here just to fly into a building. No. You know, that's, first of all, that doesn't make any sense. And for the people to start believing, for the people to believe shit like that was just absurd, man. You know, it was foolish. I remember being a child and seeing that shit, you know, in school. And they were trying to program me to believe that shit, man. You know? Didn't even understand what the hell I was, you know, what the hell we supposed to be sad for, you know? It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence. So Esau is a violent man. He takes them. He doesn't ask for them. He doesn't make deals or, you know, he doesn't buy them. He just takes them by violence. He says, and it says, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, YAHAWASHI, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. All right, so the Lord about to, you know, the Lord about to show you some evil, man. You know, the Lord about to show you something, that what you've been doing in these other nations is going to be done to you. What the scriptures say, fill the cup which you have fill to your double, Babylon. You know, so you're gonna pay double for what you've done. you know, mainly for what you've done to the Israelites. But these other nations are going to get their kicks in at you as well, man. You know, and I got that over here in Habakkuk chapter 2. And we can start with verse 5. Yeah, also, because, actually we start at verse 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up in Salakia. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith. So Esau has his, you know, he was built different, man. You know, he's not upright. You know, his soul is not upright in him. He got different spirits. These devils got different spirits, man. They're just created to be evil and wicked, and they're proud and haughty, you know, in their wickedness. You know, they don't think as the natural man thinks. It says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man. Neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell. You know, this devil ain't ever stand in this nation. He got embassies, U.S. embassies in all the other nations. You know, he over there pushing forth his democracy on the other people. All right, it says, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Okay, the scriptures say he is as death and cannot be satisfied, so he gonna covet fields and take them. He gonna keep going to these other countries and spoiling them and robbing them and taking until they have nothing left. You know, look at Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico used to be rich port, you know, but is it rich anymore? When Christopher Columbus first came over there, or when they first came over there to that area, they found kids playing football, you know, playing ball with a brick of gold, man, with a block of gold. You know, it was a rich city. It was very rich, man. And if you even watch that, you watch that show called One Piece, they got an arc that talks about Skypiea, where they had a place called the City of Gold, and the people that inhabited that place were supposed to be native Indians. They were portrayed as being native Indians, man, the people that inhabited that city, you know. And then they were talking about how their city was spoiled and robbed because of who came in rulership, Esau, Edom. All right, it was a man that came in rulership, and it's crazy because the scripture calls him the prince of the air, you know. And the man that was in rulership was an Edomite who was in the air, you know, in the sky city, ruling the sky city. And he was his main power was lightning, you know. But it's crazy how they put these things in these shows and in these movies, you know, to show you what Babylon is truly doing to us, man. You know what they're doing. You know, they did that shit to the Taino Indians, so-called, man. You know, but they were really Ephraim. It says, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. You got all these people that he's heaping unto himself. You know, all nations he's heaping unto himself, and he's made them all servants unto him, all his slaves. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his? All right, so this devil's been increasing that which is not his. Everything he has is gotten by rape, robbery, and murder, man. You know, even his buildings that he sleeps in was built up off of the backs of slaves, off the backs of the Israelites. Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? And the booty is a loot. It's like loot. Okay, and it goes on to explain, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, and of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house. That's Esau Edom, man. This nigga has an evil lust for things that don't belong to him, and he wants to take it. He see you doing good, you see your country doing good, he gonna take it. You know, you got these other countries that are discovering gold and more oil and shit, and guess what they're doing? They're putting sanctions on them. Babylon putting sanctions on them, man. You know, Babylon going over there, the Esau Edom going over there and taking their shit, man. You know, they don't want to share. All right, we're gonna put sanctions on you. It says that he may be delivered from the power of evil. It says, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. That's what Esau is trying to do, trying to set his nest on high. He wants to be above everybody on the face of the earth. But that's the role of the Israelites. You know, and he's got the Israelites in his possession, making them seem to be the lowest people on the face of the earth, while he's making himself to seem like the highest and above all people upon the face of the earth. You know, well, that's about to change, man. It says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and hast sinned against thy soul. It says, for the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall enter it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity. And that's what Esau does. And in every rulership, he has done such a thing, man. He buildeth the town. He built his towns by blood, you know, by killing the people that inhabit the towns and taking theirs, you know. Behold. Actually, that wasn't on that. I'm gonna grab this real quick. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10, and verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So Esau has translated the kingdom from one people to another because what? He has taken the things. He's deceived for the things that he has. He has stolen the things that he has. Raped, robbed, murdered, pillaged the things that he has, man. You know? Scripture calls him a covenant breaker. See if I can grab it. Alright, let's see. Nope. But you could use that Habakkuk 2 and 5, where it says, yeah, because he transgressed by wine. You know, this devil was transgressed by his wine, man. You know, his democracy, his Babylon's ways, Babylon's filthy, what's the word? It's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Babylon's filthy philosophies, man. You know, that's just how they transgress these other nations and even their own people. You know, this devil does not care about his own people. His own people suffers under his rule. You know. Right here, Scripture says in the book of Ecclesiasticus 14 and 5, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. So you see, Esau ain't taking pleasure in his goods, but he taking pleasure in everybody else's goods. And even with that, he ain't satisfied. All right? He evil to himself because he don't even take care of his own people. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. And if he doeth good, he doeth it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. And in the end, he gonna know this nigga is wicked. You gonna know he a devil because you gonna declare his wickedness against who? Against everybody, against all these other nations, against Israel. He gonna declare, hey, yeah, I've been that dude. You know, if you can't see it now, then you gonna see it when he shows you. You know, it says, the envious man hath a wicked eye. He turneth away his face and despiseth men. A covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion. That's Esau, man. He ain't satisfied with his portion. Scripture talks about him having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. You know, the Lord gave him his portion. You know, he already has the dew of heaven under the whole, you know, on the whole earth. You know, he has this already, but he wants more. He wants the Lord's seat. He wants to go. If he could, he can go. If he could, he would go and take the fields of heaven. You know, but it's impossible for him. But if this devil could, that's exactly what he would do. He would try to deceive to get in. He would try to take it by violence, whatever he could do. You know, a covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion, and the iniquity of the wicked drieth up his soul. A wicked eye envieth his bread, and he is a niggard at his table. So Esau's the real niggas, man. Esau are the real niggas. You know, they're grimy, they're shiesty, they're fucking ignorant, they're fucking, you know, thieves, you know, gangsters. These are the real gangsters, man. The gangsters of the earth, the bullies of the earth. You know, but I truly hope this lesson was edifying to you, Akim, while to listen to the sincerity. So next time I want to give all glory, honor, praises unto YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Shalom.